Before you watch this video, can you guess which sentence is correct? The apple fall. The apple falls.
Just think about it. Which one sounds right?
Well, that's what we are talking about today, subject-verb agreement. So hold on to your answer because we'll come back to it in just a bit. What is subject-verb agreement? This just means that the subject and the verb has to get along, like they're buddies. They have to agree with each other. So what does that mean? That means if the subject is singular, then the verb has to be singular. If the subject is plural, then the verb has to be plural. If you're not sure what singular and plural noun means, stop watching this video, scroll down
We
to
know
the
what that
description
means.
box,
We don't have to go back and
find a link to
watch.
the video about singular and plural nouns and watch that first. We are going to focus on nouns as subjects today, and we're going to learn how the nouns match the verbs. First, let's learn about singular noun and verb agreement. We first need to remember that singular means there is just one. It's single, it's alone. Here's a couple of singular nouns: car, tree, ball. Here's something really important to remember about a singular verb. A singular verb always has an S at the end. Eats, drinks. Remember that singular means just one thing. I tried to remember putting an S at the end by thinking that it wants a little friend S, because it's single or alone. I know it's a bit silly, but it helps me remember. Read this sentence. A bird sings. A bird. That's a singular noun. That means there's just one bird. We need a singular verb. Remember, a singular verb wants a little friend S at the end. So we'll say, a bird sings. Here's another one. A flower grows. A flower is a singular noun. There's just one flower. And grows is a singular verb. Do you see our little friend S at the end of our singular verb? We have a singular noun and a singular verb. So our subject and verb agree with each other. Now let's go back to those sentences you saw at the beginning of this video. The apple fall. The apple falls. Which subject and verb agree?
Show me. 1 or 2?
The apple is a singular noun, so we need a singular verb, falls. Now that we know how to match a singular noun and singular verb in a sentence, can you spot which sentence is correct? A boy dances. A boy dances.
Which one? Number 1 or number 2? Show me.
That's right. A boy dances.
Number 1.
Is correct, because boy is a singular noun, so you need a singular verb, dances. Don't forget that S at the end of a singular verb. Shall we now look at the plural noun and plural verb agreement? We first need to remember that plural means there is more than one. It is not alone. Here's a couple of plural nouns. Birds, teeth, bananas. One thing you need to remember about plural verbs is that unlike singular verbs, we will not add S at the end. Think of it this way. When a sentence is in the plural form, it means there's more than one. It's not alone. You don't want another friend S to make it too crowded. Look at this next sentence. Flowers is a plural noun, so we need a plural verb. Bloom is a plural verb. Do you see that we did not add an S at the end? We have a plural noun and a plural verb, so our subject and verb agree with each other. What about these sentences? Which one is correct? The children play with toys. The children plays
Which
with
one's correct?
toys.
Number 1 or number 2? Show me.
The children play with
Number
toys
1
is the
was
correct
correct.
sentence.
Children.
Children is a plural noun, meaning there's more than one child. So we need a plural verb to go along with the subject.
Plural verbs do not
Play
have
is
S.
the plural verb, and there is no extra S at the end of play. Try this one. The elves wraps the presents. The elves wrap the presents.
Number 1 or number 2? Show me.
The elves wrap
Number
the
2
presents
was
is
correct.
the correct sentence.
Remember, plural
Elves
verbs
is a plural noun,
have no
so
S.
we have a plural verb. A plural verb does not have an extra S at the end.
I think there's
So
one more.
it's wrap.
So really think.
Now that we know how to match a plural noun and plural verb in a sentence, can you spot which sentence is correct? The stars shines. The stars shine.
Number 1 or number 2?
Good job. The stars
Number
shine
2.
is correct because stars is a plural noun and shine is a plural verb. I hope this video helped you better understand about subject-verb.
Okay. Okay, so everybody's grammar notebook should be open to the first clean page. The title of today's note is Subject-Verb Agreement. Subject-verb agreement. Don't forget the little dash between subject and verb because it means they go together. So at the top of the first clean page, you should have the title, subject-verb agreement, and today's date, January 11th, 2021. Yes, sorry.
How do you spell agreement?
Agreement is spelled Agreement. Agreement. So, before we can talk about subject-verb agreement, we have to say, well, what is a verb? So, bless you. Verb. This starts at the pink line. What is a verb? Well, a verb tells what a subject is or what the subject does. So, for example, the dog buries his bone. What is the one word in this sentence that tells what the dog is or what the dog does? The one word. Not the words, but one word. Carla.
Berries.
Berries. Okay. Correct, Carla. Berries is the one word that tells what the subject is or what it's doing. Remember, the subject is who or what the sentence is about. This sentence is about the dog. The one word that tells what the dog is doing is berries. You can add his bone, but the one word, the verb, is berries. That is the one word that tells the action in the sentence or what the subject is.
Is that supposed to be the word verb?
Yes, it is. Sorry. I'm just labeling it. So berries is the verb. Now, this is just a note. We're not going to talk much about these next two things today, but these are things we'll be talking about in the next few weeks in this unit. And just an introduction, because sometimes when you're looking for a verb, there might be more than one word. So, a verb can, but does not have to, can include more than one word. Now that does not mean his bone. His bone is not part of the verb. That means it can have a main verb, like berry or berries. A main verb, an action, something that you would do, eat, sit, shine, bloom, fall, drink, whatever. So it can include a more than one verb, a main verb. Do you feel better? Okay, do you need to go to Miss Letty?
I don't think so.
Are you sure? Maybe go and let her know and just see. Okay. So a main verb and a helping verb. Some examples of those would be is or will. There are more than that, but those are two of them. Those are two of the most common. For example, the road runner is dancing. We have the main verb dancing along with the helping verb is. So is dancing is the action. It's what the subject is doing. The subject is the road runner. Well, what is the subject doing? Is dancing. Okay, we're going to talk more about those in 2 or 3 weeks, depending on what we do next week. Because we may take a week off since we don't have school on Monday. And then do a writing assignment next Wednesday for Martin Luther King Day. And then we'll pick back up on grammar the next week when we have a full week of school. Okay. I think I can fit. And then one more note. This is important. Because this is mostly what we are going to be dealing with today. An action verb, underline action verb, because that's the important word to take out of this sentence. An action verb tells what the subject does, did, or will do. The two examples we have so far, berries and is dancing. Those are both examples of action verbs. They're things you can actually do. If I am dancing, I don't want to dance. That's something you can see me doing it, right? It's an action. I'm actually doing it. If a dog is burying his bone, you can see him burying it, right? I can't bury it because I don't have dirt. But you can see those things happening. Okay. So an action verb is something you can see happen. It's something that actually happens. Versus another type of word like is or will. Can you see someone is? Can you see someone will? Can you see someone was? No. But you can see if they dance, if they bury something, if they drink, if they eat, if they walk, if they shine. You can see all of those things. So an action verb are the actions, the things that you can see happen. Now, one more quick note before we move on to subject-verb agreement. Verbs have different tenses. You're like, what is tenses? You might have heard this before, verb tense. I'm not sure. You might have talked about it in the past. You might not have. Verbs have different tenses that show when the action happens. If you can't read this, I know it's getting kind of messy because I'm having to write down here. So if you can't read a word, just let me know. Say, what is that word right there? Anybody need me to tell you any words? So verbs have different tenses that show when the action happens, period. They tell you, did it happen in the past? For example, Roadrunner danced. Can everybody see this? So they can tell you if they happened in the past. Roadrunner danced. I'm going to go over here, but you guys go down to the next line. I'm just going over here because I don't have enough space. Did it happen in the past? Well, danced is a past tense verb. It already happened. I'm going next to it. You're going below. Remember, you're going to the next line. I just don't have enough room. Is it happening now? Oops. So in the present. Roadrunner dances. That means it's happening right now. The Roadrunner is dancing. The Roadrunner dances. Or will it happen in the future? Roadrunner will dance. Will dance says that it's happening in the future. Sorry. Danced says Roadrunner danced yesterday. Dances says Roadrunner dances right now. Roadrunner will dance says Roadrunner will dance tomorrow. We're going to talk more about that next week or the week after, depending on what we do next week. Okay, so now we have some background on verbs. Some of it we're going to talk more about. Some of it is just introduction, and that's it. So finish writing this, and then we will move on to subject-verb agreement. Oops. Now let's talk about subject-verb agreement. What is subject-verb agreement? Well, we know from the video that, go back to the pink line. You moved over a little for here. Now go back to the pink line. And we're going to define subject-verb agreement. It means the subject of the sentence and the verb or the predicate so the subject of the sentence and the verb, the predicate, agree in number. What that means is singular nouns go with singular verbs, plural nouns go with plural verbs. So take a second to make sure you have the definition of subject-verb agreement. If you stress about getting it done, you will not have time. It will take longer. So the first thing we need to know, a singular verb goes with a singular subject. So a singular verb goes with a singular subject. Now this is where it was a little different in the video to what we think. We're going with the same thing that the video says. I worded that wrong. You would think, well, a singular subject, a singular noun, does not have an S on it, so that must mean a singular verb does not have an S on it. It's opposite. A singular verb always ends with S. A singular verb always ends with S. It's the opposite of what you think. Does a singular noun end with S? Does a singular noun end with S? Does a singular noun end with S? Zari.
It always.
Listen to my question, please. Does a singular noun end with S? Zadie.
No.
No. Unless the word ends with S. But we never add an S to a singular noun. A verb is opposite. We always add an S to a singular verb. Singular nouns do not have S. Singular verbs do have S. It follows the same rules as plural nouns. That means most singular verbs, you just add S. Singular verbs that end with S, what is it? S, CH, SH, X, or Z, you add ES. Singular verbs that end with a consonant Y, you change the Y to an I, and then add ES. So, you need to stop right now. That's why this is getting frustrating. They follow the same rules as plural nouns. Make sure you're looking. A singular verb always ends with S. They follow the same rules as plural nouns. Now we do have irregulars, but we'll talk about that in like 4 or 5 weeks, in about a month. We'll talk about irregular verbs where the same thing doesn't necessarily happen. But I'm not going to rewrite the rules because where can you look if you can't remember the plural noun rules? I'm not going to write out the rules. Where can you look to find the plural noun rules to figure out, okay, what are the verb rules? Victoria. Well, but what if you're sitting here doing your independent practice and you can't just go and look at the video? Where can you find the rules that plural nouns follow? Zari.
In your notebook.
In your notebooks. Come on, guys, wake up. In your notebooks. Do I have to rewrite all the rules? I feel like I do. Because you guys are not thinking. And maybe you did know that, but you're not sharing it. Well, that makes me think you're not thinking. So that makes me think, I guess I do have to write them. They don't know where to find it, so I guess I do have to write them. Do I need to write the rules to follow? Okay, I see like 2 people answering. Okay, I hope that's true. So a singular verb always ends with S. They follow the same rules as plural nouns. Most of them, you just add an S to the end. If it ends with S, CH, SH, X, or Z, you add ES. If it ends with consonant Y, that means any letter that is not a vowel, then Y. You change the Y to an I and add ES. Now let's look at an example. Let's start with our first example. The dog buries the bone. What's the subject in this sentence? Zadie.
The dog.
The dog. So we're going to circle it because we circle subjects, underline predicates. Zadie, how many dogs are there?
1.
1. So is it a singular or a plural subject?
It's a singular.
Singular. So we're going to label it SS for singular subject. One subject means singular subject. What is the one word that tells what the dog is doing? What is the one verb? The one word that tells us the verb. Smith.
Berries.
Berries. Now remember, if there's a singular subject, we need a singular verb. But singular verbs, we think oppositely because they always end with an S. You do not have to write this, but I want you to look because some of you may not know how to spell berry. Berry is spelled B-U-R-Y. We can't say the dog bury the bone. Does that sound right? The dog bury the bone. It doesn't. The dog buries the bone. Does that sound right? Yes. Subject-verb agreement is something that when you read it to yourself out loud, you can usually tell, do I have it right or do I not? If I read myself this sentence out loud, the dog bury the bone, I'm going to be like, that doesn't sound right. So I'm going to say to myself, okay, the dog buries the bone. That does sound right. So when you're doing subject-verb agreement, make sure to read it to yourself in your head, or if you can, read it out loud. Bury ends with the consonant R, then Y. So we follow the plural noun rule. When a plural noun ends with consonant Y, we change the Y to an I, and then add ES. Okay? So remember, singular subjects do not have S's. Singular verbs do end with S. So it's opposite. Singular nouns, no S. Singular verbs, yes S. Make sure you get that in your head, otherwise you're going to end up opposite. But also, if you read it out loud, you're going to catch yourself. Okay, so that is singular verbs. Singular verbs and singular nouns go together. Which one has an S? A singular noun or a singular verb? Mason?
A singular verb.
A singular verb. Which one does not have an S? A singular noun or a singular verb? Aaron?
A singular noun.
A singular noun. Very good. So, a plural verb never ends with S. It's the opposite because we think, oh, plural, it has to have an S. Not with verbs. A plural verb never ends with S. Unless, of course, the verb itself ends with S. Like, who can think of a verb that ends with S? I thought of one, but I want to see if somebody can think of a better one. Ethan? Run. Does that end with S? No. The only one I can think of off the top of my head is kiss. Kiss, K-I-S-S, ends with S. So, of course, even if we're talking about more than one person doing this, it's still going to end with S. We're not going to add an extra S to a plural verb. So it's the opposite. Plural nouns end with S unless they're irregular. Plural verbs do not have an added S. Does everybody understand? It's the opposite. Just like with singular verbs and singular nouns, it's the same with verbs. Plural verbs end with S. Plural nouns end with S. Plural verbs do not end with S. So do we have any rules that we have to follow if they don't end with S? No, we don't. So let's just go straight into the example. Let's just do the dogs. Bury their bones. What's the subject in this sentence? What's the subject in this sentence? Smith.
The dogs.
The dogs. How many dogs are there?
More than one.
More than one. So we have a plural subject. We know there's more than one. We don't know how many there are, but we know that there's more than one. That S tells us there's more than one dog. What is the one verb that tells what the dogs are doing? Victoria. Bury. Do we have an S? Did we add an S to the end? No, because plural verbs do not get an S added to the end. Listen to this sentence. The dogs buries their bones. Does that sound right? No, it doesn't. But what about the dogs bury their bones? Does that sound right? Yes. So again, read to yourself out loud when you do subject-verb agreement, because you'll be able to hear it. Sadie, if you need to go back to the bathroom, go ahead. Okay. So again, with plural verbs match plural nouns. Oops, I should have said whatever. A plural verb goes with a plural subject. So think about it. Which one ends with S? A plural noun? A plural subject? So which one ends with S? A plural subject or a plural verb? Which one does end with S? A plural subject or a plural verb? Michaela? A plural subject. Which one does not end with S? A plural subject or a plural verb? Cullen?
The plural verb.
A plural verb. They are opposite. Plural nouns end with S. Plural verbs do not end with S. Singular nouns end with what? Singular nouns end with what? Victoria?
Singular nouns and with it with.
What do singular nouns end with? What do we add to singular nouns? Zari,
S.
listen to my question. What do we add to singular nouns? Victoria? Nothing. Come on, guys. It's been like 8 months of me asking questions like this. There's no excuse. What do singular nouns end with? Cullen.
Nothing.
Kingston, what do singular nouns end with?
They end with
Aaron, what do singular nouns end with?
nothing.
Michaela, what do singular nouns end with?
Nothing.
Ethan, what do singular nouns end with?
Nothing.
Mason, what do singular nouns end with?
Nothing.
Kingston, what do singular nouns end with? Zari, what do singular nouns end with?
Nothing.
Smith, what do singular nouns end with?
Nothing.
What about what about singular verbs? What do singular verbs end with? Carla,
Nothing.
somebody who had not left the computer. What do singular verbs end with? Michaela, S. Carla, you've got to stay and watch the lesson. You missed that. You weren't sitting there. Singular verbs always end with S. It's the opposite. Singular nouns end with nothing. Singular verbs end with S. What does a plural noun end with? Kingston. S. What does a plural verb end with? Ethan. What does a plural verb end with? Smith.
Nothing.
Nothing. It's opposite. You have to remember it's opposite. Singular verbs always end with S. Plural verbs never end with S. It seems like it shouldn't be that way, but that's how it is. Okay. So everybody should be looking at the guided practice. It has GP under the name, and it has page 66 down at the bottom. And now let's look at it. Oh, look at this box right here. It has those rules for plural nouns that match with singular verbs. So where can you look if you're not sure what to put at the end of a singular verb? Mason?
In the box.
In the box. Please quickly read the first bullet point. Aaron, loud and slow.
Add ES to verbs that end in S.
So if the subject is plural, are we going to have to worry about this first rule? If the subject is plural, do we have to worry about the first rule? If the subject is plural, do we change the verb at all? If the subject is plural, do we change the verb? No. I think a lot of you are just you're gonna get it completely wrong because you're really not listening and you're not paying attention. Sit up straight, please. If the subject is plural, the verb does not change. We do not add s to verbs when the subject is plural. Plural verbs have no s at the end. Only singular verbs change in the present tense. We are only working with present tense today. Only things that are happening now. Please read the second bullet point. Cullen, loud and slow.
Change Y to an I and add ES to verbs that end with a consonant and a Y.
Do we do that if the subject is plural, Cullen?
No.
No, because do we change verbs? Do we change plural verbs?
No.
No. So let's add if the subject is singular. Now, this is very important. Please read the last bullet point. Smith.
Do not add s or es to a present tense verb when the subject is plural or I or you.
Good. So if the verb is plural, if the subject is plural, do not add an s. This is something I forgot to put in your notes. If the subject is I or you, don't add s. Never. Even though I is only one person and you could refer to one person if I'm just talking to Cullen, don't add s. If the subject is I or you, do not add s. Does everybody understand? Doesn't matter how many people you're talking about, if you use I or you do not add s. Plural subjects and I or you as the subject, we do not add an s. Okay, if it is a singular subject, other than I or you will add an s or an es or change the y to an I and then add es. So the directions say read each sentence. Write the correct present tense form of each underlined verb on the lines provided. So Victoria, number 1, we have the rattlesnake stretch out the rocks. Stretch out along the rocks. We already know the verb is stretch. What's the subject? Who or what is this sentence about?
It's about
The rattlesnake. How many rattlesnakes are there? 1, which means what do we do to stretch? Sometimes the answer might be nothing. Everybody listen. Sometimes when I say, what do we do to the verb? The answer might be nothing. You need to figure out. We know the rattlesnake is a singular subject. So what do we need to do to stretch? The answer could be nothing or it could be add something. We need to add es. So it should say, the rattlesnake stretches out along the rocks. Remember, singular subject, singular verb. Singular verbs end with s. But stretch ends with ch, so we have to follow the first rule. Add an es. Please make sure you're paying attention. Okay, number 2. His scales flashes silver in the hot desert sun. Ethan, who or what is this sentence about? Look at the sentence. Who or what is it about? Look at the sentence. We're looking at words. Like Victoria told us that the first sentence was about the rattlesnake. So she didn't make up words. She used words that were in the sentence that the sentence tells about. So who or what in this sentence is this sentence about? So we're finding a noun. We see scales and sun. Is this sentence about scales or is it about the sun? Scales. Is that singular or plural? Are we talking about one scale or are we talking about more than one scale? More. So is it a singular or plural subject? Plural subject. which means our verb flashes. What do we have to do to it? It's a plural subject. Do plural verbs end with S? No. This ends with S, so is it correct? What should this word be? Flash. His scales flash silver in the hot desert sun. Do you hear the difference? His scales flashes silver in the hot desert sun. Does that sound quite right? No. But then if we change it to the correct form, his scales flash silver in the hot desert sun. Does that sound right? Yes. Okay, number 3. He swished his long tail. Michaela, who or what is this sentence about? Is swish a noun? Is it something, is it a person, place, thing, or idea? Who or what is this sentence about? Class, where do we almost always find the subject in a sentence? Where in the sentence do we almost always find the subject? Zadie?
In the beginning.
In the beginning. So if we're looking for the subject, where should we look first, Zadie?
The beginning.
In the beginning. We need to look for what part of speech? A noun or a verb, Zadie? For the subject. We're looking for the subject. Are we looking for a noun or a verb?
No.
A noun. So Michaela, number 3, he swished his long tail. What is the subject? Who is doing something in this sentence? Or what is doing something? He. Is that singular or plural? Is that a singular subject or a plural subject? Is there more than one? Singular. So our verb, swish. It's a singular verb. Singular verbs always end with what? S. So what do we have to do to make that verb plural, singular? Just add S? Add ES, because we follow the rule. If it ends with SH, we add ES. He swishes his long tail. Listen to the difference. He swished his long tail. Doesn't sound quite right. He swishes his long tail. Sounds correct. Okay, number 4, Kingston. A prairie dog scurry away when it hears the snakes rattle. What is the subject in this sentence? Who or what is the sentence about?
A prairie dog.
A prairie dog. Is that a singular or a plural subject? Singular. We're only talking about one prairie dog. Otherwise, we would say prairie dogs. But it says a prairie dog. So, that means our verb has to be what? Singular or plural? Our subject is singular, which means our verb has to be what? Singular. Singular verbs end with what? Nothing? S? What?
S.
S. So, how do we change scurry to be plural?
Make the Y into an I and then add the S.
Good. We change the Y into an I and add ES because R is a consonant. If a verb ends with consonant Y and we have to make it singular, we change the Y to an I and add ES. You guys have got to understand, singular subjects go with singular verbs. Singular verbs always end with S. Plural subjects go with plural verbs. Plural verbs never end with S. Please understand that. Quickly.
I had comments about plural.
Good. Okay. Number 5, a small lizard crawl away. Mason, what is the subject of this sentence?
Small lizard.
A small lizard. Is that a singular subject or a plural subject?
Singular.
Singular. There's only one small lizard. So that means, does our verb need to be singular or plural? Our subject is singular, so our verb needs to be singular. Singular verbs. What do they end with? Nothing or S?
Nothing.
Look at your, remember it's the opposite. Look at your notes. They end with S. So what do we have to do to that verb?
Put an S on.
We add an S. Just an S? Yes. So a small lizard crawls away. please, 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 some of you are just going to go fast and you're going to make singular subjects. You're going to leave an S off. And plural subjects, you're going to add S. Remember, singular subjects do not end with S. Singular verbs do. Plural subjects end with S. Plural verbs do not. They are opposite. If your subject ends with an S, your verb will not end with S. If your subject does not end with S, your verb will. One of them has to end with S, either the noun or the verb. They cannot both end with S. Number 6, the rattlesnake reached the edge of the rock. Zadie, what is the subject in this sentence?
The rattlesnake.
The rattlesnake. Is that a singular subject or a plural subject?
A singular.
Singular subject. There's only one rattlesnake. So our verb, does it need to be singular or plural?
Singular.
Which means it ends with nothing or S.
S.
S. So how do we rewrite reach so that it is written correctly?
You add an S.
Just an S? Come on, guys, you got to follow the rules. These are the same rules we've been following since we did plural nouns months ago.
You add ES.
I add ES. Otherwise, it would be reach. And that's not how we say that. We say reach es, so we need that E. The rattlesnake reaches the edge of the rock. Sounds right. Number 7, a bee buzzed past the snake. Carla, what is the subject of the sentence, a bee buzzed past the snake?
A bee.
A bee, is that a singular subject or a plural subject?
Singular.
Singular, there's only one bee. So that means, does the verb need to be singular or plural?
Singular.
So, if it's singular, do we leave buzz alone? Do we add nothing or do we add S?
We add ES.
We add ES. Remember, singular verbs do end with S. Buzz ends with Z, so we have to follow that rule. A bee buzzes past the snake. That sounds right. Number 8, the rattlesnake hurried down the rock. Zari, what is the subject?
The rattlesnake.
The rattlesnake. Is that singular or plural?
Singular.
Singular. So that means, does our verb need to be singular or plural?
Plural.
Our subject is singular. Singular subjects go with what type of verbs? Smith.
Singular.
Singular, which means, Zari, do we add nothing or do we add S to make hurry a singular verb?
We add S.
We add S, but what rule? We have to follow a rule. So how do we change hurry so that it is singular?
We we take out the Y and add IES.
Good. The rattlesnake hurries down the rock. Okay, who has not had a chance to do one of these yet? Aaron, number 9. He quickly passed by a cold, shaded area. What is the subject? Is quickly part of the subject?
No.
That's an adverb. It says how he does this. So what is the subject? He. Is that singular subject or plural subject? Singular, which means, does our verb need to be singular or plural? For a singular verb, do we leave it alone or do we add S? We add S. Now, how do we fix past so that it is a singular verb? We add ES. Good. I couldn't tell if you said add the S or add ES. Yes, we add ES because it ends with S. Okay, last one. Cullen. You approaches any snake with caution. What is the subject?
You.
You. Now, does it matter if you is singular or plural? No, because we know no matter what, if the subject is you, what do we do to the verb?
No.
Nothing. But in this case, it already has es, so what do we have to do?
No.
We just leave it? We leave it as you approaches any snake with caution?
You approach.
So what do we do to it? Look how it's written. What do we do to it? To make it right.
You take off the es.
I take off the es because, so it should say you approach any snake with caution. Remember, if the subject is you or I, does the verb end with s? If the subject is you or I, does the verb end with s? Zari? No, never. We will never add an extra s to the verb if the subject is you or I. I approach any snake with caution. You approach any snake with caution. Cullen, you approach any snake with caution. You only means one person, right? Class, you approach any snake with caution. This time you means 11 people. It doesn't matter. If the subject is you or I, you do not add an s. Okay, you do have independent practice, but I'll probably start it as morning work tomorrow, and then you have till the end of the day to finish it. Okay? Because you do have a good amount of homework tonight, so I don't want to give it to you tonight. But I may change my mind. I don't know. Okay. Everybody, go ahead and clear your desks. Put your